Lester was good. Lester went 20 minutes.
Only asked 3 questions.
Y'all ready in the back?
Maybe we don't. Maybe I don't need to be here. Maybe we'll just leave it at that.
We'll have Coach open with some statements, and we'll go to questions.
First, regarding closure to our game last week, after reviewing the film and just being very thorough about the analysis, the game was pretty simple in that Pitt won both sides of the line of scrimmage. That really was where the difference of the game emerged, especially in the second half. I believe, and my philosophy is, that there are 3 to 5 plays, and well researched, that determine outcome, especially in games of parity or conference race games, whether it be in the NFL or college. And this game was no different. We misfit 2 run plays that both scored. After a first down, we turned the ball over on a drive that was necessary. And then, so that would be 3 of the plays, and then just simply didn't respond to a momentum shift on a penalty. And so you take all the snaps and all the football that was played, those 4 plays really were pivotal in the outcome, and lots to be learned from those, with the underlying theme being the execution by Pitt, their offensive and defensive fronts, ended up in the second half determining the outcome of the game. So having said that, lots to work on, to improve. I love the idea of controlling what we can control and focusing on improving our football team this week with urgency, knowing there's just a 3-game stretch left before postseason, and how much improvement and how much success can we have within that time frame. Knowing that, man, there's plenty to still to play for. I would love to have a great outing at home to finish this season, and very appreciative of our fans, and noticeably different the feeling in Scott Stadium this year to me, in terms of the energy, in terms of the support, the student section. There's a noticeable difference, and for me to notice it on the sideline is pretty significant, but I have felt it and seen it and acknowledged it, and I'm so appreciative, and I would love to have that finish this season appropriately for everyone. And then going forward, fight right to the end for the Coastal in the next 2 games after. Now, having said that, I really won't address anything other than the Liberty game going forward, but that's what I've shared with the team. And so now our focus is to play the best football we can this week, with that being our only focus. So I'm glad to take questions.
When you have a young player like Elliott Brown, who hasn't played a ton from scrimmage, and he is in position to make a really good hustle play, and then at the last second he does something he probably didn't need to do and would not do again, what do you tell him after a play like the horse collar?
Oh, it just simply is a learning experience. It was an effort play, as you mentioned, which I am a will before skill coach, and sometimes the growing pains that come through experience are for everyone to see, and it impacts the team. That does not mean it determines outcome. I think there were 3 other third downs on that drive where we had a chance to get off the field. But in the context of that was just a significantly emotional play that, as our program builds and matures, we have to be able to then, that's over, reset, reframe, and finish, which on that particular drive we didn't do. And so learning experience, which is hard to simulate or create in practice, even though that's our intent. And in that moment, just didn't quite, the roots weren't deep enough from practice to the game, and made an effort-based mistake, which easier to take those than the concentration mistakes and false starts and different things that were happening early in the game. Those to me actually bothered me more, significantly more than that one.
Coach, we realize you have to play whomever is on the schedule, but is it a unique challenge to grind in the Coastal and an ACC play and then play a non-conference game this late in the season, just that dynamic?
Yeah, it's a unique challenge, and it doesn't mean bad or good, but it is a challenge. Having been an independent before, very few teams that were involved in conference play wanted to then break and schedule an independent, that we usually found the most success, or anyone wanting to play us at the beginning. It was harder to find those games at the end. So it's a challenge. Again, it's an opportunity to improve our team and play football again. But to not acknowledge it would not be truthful. Yeah, it is different. But man, we have so much to work on and so much ground to make up and so much to play for that I don't anticipate that being now anything other than a great opportunity.
Zacchaeus only had 5 touches, I think, the other day. Is there a better way of getting him more touches in games?
Certainly, and has to have more touches. We know that our offensive production, as well as our team, an opportunity to win is tied not exclusively, but has a lot to do with Bryce and Olamide. Those are our 2 most productive and dynamic offensive players. And so we just simply struggled to get on track, find rhythm, find momentum, and assemble the continuity of a plan that got us the points and yield that we needed. And so number of touches kind of reflects just the way the game went in terms of lack of production, lack of points. And what I believe is we got the Pitt versus Notre Dame team. We didn't get the Pitt versus Duke team in terms of style of play, which we expected and kind of wanted that. We just thought we would win that type of game. And they made a couple more plays than us, and they ended up kind of beating us at our own game.
Do you have any updates? Mandy Alonso, Juan Thornhill, Joey Blunt?
We're anticipating Mandy Alonso being out. And so that's just short of being confirmed, but anticipating that. All others, I would say, are hopeful and have not been confirmed or ruled in or out yet. This week? This week. Mm-hmm.
And Dylan Thompson kind of got some run there with Mandy being dinged. And what have you seen from him, and where's your confidence level in him?
I just saw a start. Dylan still, in terms of where our preparation and our culture and our intensity and effort level is and are in my expectations, he's still not to that point, but he's becoming closer. And all that happens now with Mandy is that Coach Soto and the defensive line, the spotlight goes directly to them, and the urgency to emerge, have another player emerge or other players emerge for us, and we're out of time. That has to happen immediately.
Coach, as you look at Liberty on film, the passing game really has to stick out. Calvert's a record-setting quarterback. The receiver Antonio Gandy is a big physical guy. What stands out there, and what does your secondary have to do to kind of keep that in check?
Yeah, what stands out is production. Liberty is 9th nationally in throwing the football, I think 26th in scoring offense. And so the statistics jump out, and it's not hard to see on film that they have some talented players, a nice scheme design, and are very clear about what their identity is and the speed in which they want to do it.
I think you've said that you thought the offensive line was better last season than it was your first year, and there may be more incremental progress this year. How far are you on that front from getting the O-line where you want it and need it to be?
Yeah, we're still a significant ways off, but we have improved from a year ago in not only culture and performance. But again, that has moved the meter. I don't know where to put it in terms of letter grade or percentage, but it is moving. Not as fast as I would like it. We're not as deep as I would like, and the mindset and execution, as well as the strength and size, is still a work in progress. But we are improving, and that's the only way our record and the program movement can and has happened to this point is due to some of their improvement.
Against a Liberty team that gave up, I believe, 777 yards last week, how important is it to get Jordan Ellis back to where he was earlier?
It's really important. It was one of the we met on Saturday as a team, having played on Friday, just to put the past game or the Pitt game to rest and finish all that, so we didn't have to do double duty on Mondays like we normally do. And so we met, and that was one of my points of emphasis to the team. Our run game can't just be Bryce on a zone read pull and then quarterback scramble. That can't be the majority of the yards. That can be complementary, but it has to come off of run game execution off of our core plays. And right now it's shifting in reverse order, and so it has to happen for us to have the success we want down the stretch.
Bronco, with Saturday being senior day, there are a lot of unsung guys, it seems like, in this senior class who have just stuck it out and grinded it out and done their part as you kind of get this thing going. What have those guys meant to this program?
They're everything. They're the glue. They're the mortar. They're the things that have held things together. When some of the higher drama personalities want to go up and down, they just keep working. And then when there might be a great win, they just keep working. And when there's a tough loss, they just keep working. And so the consistency and the embodiment of the core principles of the program, those guys they're unwavering. And it's been essential to the progress that we have made and we are making. And I can't, I've just been really fortunate to find and to have a group of young guys allow me to coach them and trust me and our methodology, which is difficult. It hasn't been easy for any of them, and yet they've embraced it as their way, and I'm really proud of them.
Coach, you talk about the unique challenge late in the year of a non-conference game. Coming off of a loss, though, is it a little bit easier to get your team ready for a game like this and focused on things that they have to work on?
I'm not sure if it's easier, but any of us in this profession, there's high stakes and high pressure, and none of us like to lose, and that feeling isn't something you want to linger. And so there's an urgency added regardless of the next game where you want it to go away, that feeling. And so I think for any staff, any program, any players, that's a typical response, is you just want that feeling to go away and replace it with something better. And sometimes who you're playing helps. Other times it's just, we just need another game as fast as we can play. And where our team is, I'm not sure, other than we want to play again as fast as possible.
One of the things that Lester mentioned was you first get here and you put in your style and the way you do things, and it wasn't for everybody, right? Some guys left. And what do you think made Lester Coleman somebody that stuck? And was there a point early on that he kind of won you over and you said, okay, this is one of the guys I want to hang around?
The collective body of work is what wins me over. I think trust is established with time and consistency. And so for anyone in our organization, if you're looking for a winning over moment, that's a waste of time. But if you look to now daily, week in and week out, and day out, and year in and year out, just working and showing up and doing what's asked, and with a great attitude and leadership and helping others do the same, then over time, yeah, trust is established. And so I can't name the day, but certainly trust has been earned by Lester from me. And man, he's an amazing young person. And when letters of reference or endorsements come, I mean, they better have a long time on the phone if that's a call, because he's going to get whatever job I'm recommending him for.
What do you like? What do you like about him? What is it that stands out?
There's nothing I don't like. Every admirable quality that you can consider, I think I've seen him demonstrate or manifest that in a real natural and authentic way. So I'm a fan. No? Make something up.
Regarding this game, had it been scheduled before you got here, what was your involvement, and what about who do you know over there, and what do you see as the future of this series?
I think that the game was scheduled prior to my arrival. I didn't have any involvement in the scheduling from what I recall. Turner Gill, the head coach, serves on the board of trustees for the AFCA, as do I, and so we've gotten to know each other the past number of years. But other than that, there's nothing that that I've been part of in terms of the rival or the game. Yeah, I like the idea again of in terms of scheduling philosophy, close and regional, those things, and intriguing. I think it's just it makes a lot of sense, and so in our own state, it certainly makes sense. And where and how it goes from here, we'll certainly see. Scheduling happens, as you know, 5 and sometimes 6 and sometimes 7 years in advance. So I haven't even looked past this game, if the series is to continue or if this is a one-time. I haven't looked enough to even know.
It's in the precedents. It goes up. The last game is 23rd.
Okay.
Not every year.
So there you go. Right now I know it's Monday, and that's about as far as I've looked.
Are there freshmen who have not played this year who, in your first 2 years, you would have used because you didn't have the depth or needed what they bring? And I'm just curious, kind of your overall thoughts on this class.
Yeah, I don't think so. And again, if I had all the names in front of me, I might change my answer. But a year ago, 17 of those first years played, which from what was passed on to me, that was the 4th most in college football. Our roster now is, I've heard 6th, 7th, or 8th youngest. I don't know which of those is accurate. But we're playing anyone that can play and help our team progress and move forward. And so I don't feel, in answer to your question, that there's any position or any player that we can then say, oh, we'll just hold and wait for another year. We're not to that point. Intentionally, we're working as hard as we can to protect Brennan Armstrong at quarterback. We'd love to have him and not count this year. And that would be the only circumstance where I would say there's an exception to where our roster is.
Joseph White played for the first time the other day. Given the injuries in the secondary and depending on how quickly some guys get back, is he an option from scrimmage, or is he just a special teams
He's a special
guy?
teams option only at this point. Now that might change based on injury and who comes back and who doesn't, but right now I'm considering special teams only, and he's earned that right. He's done a really nice job to this point this season. And again, it's not accidental. The roster is getting thin right now, and it's about the same time it started to get thin a year ago. Maybe we're a game or two longer, but that's exactly where we are. That game in particular, on the defensive side, we took some pretty significant hits at key production positions, and 1 is possibly replaceable, 2 is difficult, 3 is really hard, and so yeah, we're trying to get those guys back as fast as possible. Eventually, this program will the next guy up will step in and be ready, but we're not there yet.
Coach, Lester was talking about the transition from traditional punting to rugby-style punting. I don't know how much you guys look at other programs, but right up there in Harrisonburg, Jamie's had a pretty good success the last 2 years with a young Aussie rules punter. Did you guys talk to him or reach out to anyone about kind of making that transition? And if not, what led to the transition?
What led to the transition was yards per return. It's much more difficult to return rugby-style punts than traditional punts, and that's demonstrated in our yards per return right now. I think our opponents are under 3 yards per return. It's almost not possible to return a kick against us right now with the formations that we're using and the inclusion of some rugby. And so that's the primary purpose. Someone that's been really instrumental in helping the rugby transition is Drew Meyer, who's a graduate assistant, a former punter at Wisconsin, and so he is our graduate assistant that works with our kickers and punters under Ricky Brumfield's direction. But Drew has been really helpful through his connections, and kickers are all tied together somehow, some way through the different camps they've been to, and Drew is part of that. I don't even know what to call that kind of conglomerate of kicker society. But that's how we've done it.
Lester gave us some information on Spaziani, who will be in here later, that he can be found in the locker room at 4 a.m. and other stuff. Can you talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, Spaz is there before our coaching staff, and that's hard to do because we get there early. he's the son of a football coach, and he's passionate about it, so he knows early hours. He's passionate about self-improvement. He loves to read. He's always studying how possibly to improve his craft, and he just is, during practice, he's not only snapping, but he's assessing our offense, our defense, scheme, strategy. He's asking me questions that just, yeah, like an analyst, basically. He's just really fun to be around. He's just so driven to learn, and I like those that are just driven to improve. So, yeah, it'll be a long time before we have another one like him, if ever.
You mentioned that you've been independent before. Can you kind of speak, I guess, to what little relationship you do have with Coach Gill at this point, and also just the level of respect for an independent program?
Yeah, so Turner and I, through the board of trustees, we've become friends, and when Liberty chose to go independent, we had a dialogue, and I don't remember the exact details, but he knew that I had been at Brigham Young. We had been independent, and so I just passed on some of our experiences, some of the strengths, and some of the challenges that are part of being an independent. And it's just been fun to get to know him as a person, which I always look for quality people in the coaching profession, and I think he certainly is. And I respect his record on terms of coaching, but more importantly, just who he is. I think he's exceptional and just a really good person.
With Mandy not available, what does that change for you? I see Jordan Redmond back at nose tackle, Eli at end. Does that change things for you beyond just the defensive line? Does that mean with J Mac back, does that mean anything for the back seven as well?
It certainly could. That's what the defensive staff is doing right now. Again, our philosophy is put the best 11 defensive players out on the field that match the circumstance and situation that they're presented with, and so that's all being assessed right now because that dynamic just changed based on some of the injuries in the past game. So, yeah, it certainly could affect other positions besides just the defensive line.
And if I can add one follow-up, on J Mac being back, what did you see from him on film?
I saw effort and desire, but I did not see precision and consistency. So it looked like his first game back is what it looked like.
You had a few other receivers involved in the passing game this past week. Was it what you had hoped for in terms of advancing that part of the game, or is there still work to do?
It's still work to do, but I was happy for Terrell Jana. He's kind of labored in the background and has been consistent and just worked and worked and worked, and to have a few targets go his way and for him to have some production, it's needed. We've been looking the entire year for a complement to Bryce, Alameda, Hassis. We've been trying to find one other contributor, and sometimes it's been Joe Reed, sometimes it's been Tavares Kelly. In the last game it was kind of Terrell Jana. So we're still hoping there becomes a more consistent performer opposite those others, and so this week we'll have a lot to do with who fills that role for Saturday.
Anything else before Chris Peace? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.